going to move on. This was like the next topic was my sense of kind of not wanting doing this on undrafted because I kind of don't, not that I don't like the way it's being covered on ESPN, but I feel like it's not the best place to cover it. So that's why I wanted to do it on Pennsylvania because you suggested to doing it. But I said, like, no, let's do it on Pennsylvania because I feel like that's the environment and the place where you need to do it.
Okay.
Because I feel there's a big discussion. Like, I don't know if you listened to Ben Shapiro's podcast yesterday, and he talked about how, like, ESPN's losing their numbers and how it's all changing with, like, the way they've dropped certain, like, the older generations kind of sports and whatnot, and like the way they covered it or their coverage on certain sports, they dropped that. And as a result, there's a lot of people unsubscribing and whatnot. So
right, yeah.
I felt like let's do it here because this is where it should be really being talked about. Because I'm not saying we're experts, but he said, like, ESPN's, they're not political experts. So in a way,
you go to ESPN for your news, and your politics.
Yeah, and you want to relax and listen to sports. This is, going to CNN is where you want to be depressed in a way. Fair enough. But, so we're going to talk about the mandatory standing for the national anthem for the NFL that was in place about a week ago now, right? Almost?
I don't think it's been that long. It was like right before the Memorial Day weekend when they announced it, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, because I talked to my brother about this.
Maybe it has been a week, actually. Yeah.
I certainly had an argument about this weekend with my brother and my mom. It was interesting to talk about because, like Caesar's probably the highest educated individual in my family, so it's like interesting to get his perspective on things. That's why I like talking to him, not privately, but like just on certain situations, just to get some input on what he thinks. Because he lives in San Francisco, and like what I got out of all the conversation, I was like, I didn't know his politics either, so like it was kind of interesting to see it. He didn't like the way they did it, how the quickness of it, and the less input of the players, and resembling to the NBA's ruling back in I think '94. I think it was when they did this, and how they actually had the players' input before they made the decision. Mm-hmm. So that was like one of the negatives he had to it. And I felt the same after I did the research on it as well, because like yes, the players didn't really have that much of an input, but I feel as well. Should the players have an input on this, something like this?
I definitely don't think that they have to. It's not like a requirement for me that like the Players Association or whatever be consulted. I think that if you read into kind of how this whole vote, it turns out, so like they announced that this was the ruling that it was now going to be required in the NFL that all the teams, that you either stand on the field or you can wait in the locker room and come out after the fact. So like I'm sure that'll be something that we'll see in any case like that, with like them giving them that kind of that caveat. But I don't know if integrity is the right word, but the integrity of the vote has kind of taken a hit because they announced that it was unanimous. Like when they first announced this, it was a unanimous vote that all of the owners had voted in favor of this ruling. And then we started to learn that like
the Jets
two of the owners had abstained from the vote. So like it wasn't everyone. And then we found out that like one of the Jets co-owners said that like he's going to pay any of the fines that like might be incurred from the players because he didn't agree with the ruling basically. I don't think he's a majority owner.
I think that also is like I think it's a political move as well, like between owners, because like some of them feel probably like they didn't have a say in it. So I think that's more towards that to what the cause is as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. I feel like maybe there's like some personal things going on. It's not just going to be like, oh, like the headline would say like, oh, this guy's for this, you know what I mean? Or for for Black Lives Matter. But like, there's also probably elements in there as well to where he's like, well, owner A got the say, but like, cause I don't agree with it, I didn't like get a say in a way. There's probably some kind of like weird political thing going on in between, or some kind of conflicts between the owners that probably happen. Cause like there's not a lot that gets done in the NFL like super quick.
Yeah.
So I would say like it's not just the one cause. That's probably the reason why they are bringing that up as well.
Well, as far as like whether or not I feel like should people be standing for the anthem, I think like what I hear a lot. First off, what I hear all the time is that like in doing this, they're denying First Amendment rights, and I don't know. the NBA and the NFL are still, even though like they're very much in the public light, like they're private businesses, and private businesses have the right to make the rules as they see fit. And so I think that like there are plenty of things that you and I could say like.
Well, I have an example, like even today, because like the job I work, I have to use my own phone, my personal phone, but like when I call a customer, or when I have to contact a customer, it masks my number.
Okay.
So, and then it masks their number, so they obviously can't have my number in a way. That's for privacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that says where I have to give out my actual number, because that's why I give it to my company that I work for, not to the customer. But I had a customer that has a specific direction that says to call this number because she's not there, and it's for this person,
Okay.
and let them know they're there. But it's their number. So if I type that number into my phone, then I'm giving away my phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done this, actually. This is the second time I've done this. I'm not going to say their name or like that. But like the first time I called and I said hello, unfortunately I don't want to give you my personal number because I feel like that's my number, and that's why we have it masked for that reason. And then the second time I did it, and then she said, well, she didn't take it well. But then the second time, I sent a text just to let her know, like, hey, this is me again. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. This is inconvenience for you. But she texted me back, like she even threaded like, oh, I'm gonna go. Can you please send it? Don't accept this assignment, or.
Oh, okay. She didn't want you to. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want me to drive, obviously, but like, I don't have a choice anyways, but because or I'm gonna have to move the Uber Eats. I'm pretty sure my company that I work for isn't going to be too stressful about like that because of what I do and how many deliveries I do a week. So losing one customer isn't that bad. And the referrals that I've given to have more drivers, and then Crystal and Caesar, like I've probably benefited the company more than she has, obviously. So like that's what I'm saying. Like it's kind of like the same kind of thing. Like, am I going to give my personal number out to her in a way? Do you see the resemblance to what I'm saying?
I guess, yeah.
But I'm not saying it's like the First Amendment right, but I'm saying like there's no policy to where like I have to give that out in a way, and it's kind of like standing for the flag, in a sense of like you're choosing to do that, and like there's not a policy to do that in a way. I guess. I don't know if I made that bridge.
Well, where I was going was that there are all sorts of infringements, if you want to call it that, on free speech in the workplace. Like anyone who has any sort of regular job, there are 100,000 different things that you can say during that job that is going to get you fired. Like you don't really have free speech when you're like working or representing someone else. Like if you're representing another company, or if you're representing the NFL, or so like the NFL as like a group of owners and as a business is seeing like declining ratings, which I don't necessarily think that like those declining ratings are specifically tied to the whole.
They did a poll, and it was 50% of the people there was like about 50% of the amount of people that they took a poll on said that they were not watching it because of
that.
Yeah.
Okay, well then it's larger than I thought it would have been, but even still, I mean, so like they're reacting financially, which is like what any successful business does.
They dropped down the ratings 8%, which is big for the NFL, and that's a lot of money lost. So
yeah, and then what I hear a lot of times, like another argument that I hear is that, well, the players kneeling, like they're not disrespecting the flag, like that's not what it's about. Like it's about like specifically they always bring it like Colin Kaepernick kneeling about like police brutality against African American people in the United States. And while I agree that it may not be their intent to disrespect the flag by kneeling and to disrespect the anthem by kneeling, like it doesn't change the fact that they are, in my opinion. Like I understand that you're kneeling and for police brutality against African Americans, and there are certainly instances, and it just happened just even like a week ago. There was a Milwaukee Bucks guard that like the Bucks are suing the local police department or something like that for like something that happened to him. I don't know the details of that story, but like it happens, and like there's no two ways about that. Like it does happen in this country.
But like statistically too, when they say, I think there's some things when they say that like they have it worse in a way. Like statistically though, like there like there's I think there's more white men that have that situation than they do black. But it's because just I think it's also because of like the population.
Yeah, that's what I would have to know like a little bit more details about those statistics.
I remember seeing that in a couple of things that I read that statistically that happens more often to a white man than it does to a black man by like not by much though.
Okay.
So, but like it's a rarity as well. It can happen. Not that it can happen to anyone, but like it can be easily avoided if both sides are communicating well and both sides are doing what they're supposed to do as well. Because a lot of it too is just people not just doing what they're supposed. Not that what they're supposed to do in a way, but like when I've gotten pulled over a couple of times, not because like I'm like speeding or like that, but like when I get pulled over, I turn my car off, put my keys on my dash, and I have my hands on the wheel. I mean, not that that's like common sense or like that, or everyone should do that. I just do that just because I feel like that's the right thing to do, and it just makes it easier. And
that's probably what the officer would ask you to do when he gets
exactly.
Anyway.
Or if he'll probably ask to put my hands out. And like I remember like I had to pull out to get my registration. I was like, is it okay if I open this up? Like I even had the courtesy to ask that. So I just want to make them comfortable because like they're humans. They don't want to be as uncomfortable as you do. Because like the one thing I'm not that I'm saying most afraid of, but I'm most uncomfortable with is actually having a gun around me. I feel really uncomfortable for some reason. Like I remember Brandon asking me to go shoot with him. I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like I not that I don't want to, or I just don't feel comfortable, and like I probably eventually will break that barrier eventually, but I just like I'm not comfortable around like a gun like that. But like I said, going off on a tangent. Sorry. It just I think what they could have done better is like maybe just educating people on it, both sides. Holding people accountable, obviously, for what they've done. But also just like, teaching people, don't do anything stupid. Like it's just that they're having a bad day or something like that. Or yes, they do have something in their car and they're trying to avoid that from bad happening or something like that. Or they're just trying to get home or something like that. But like, the simple thing is that they're making individual decisions, and it shouldn't, be a black thing or a white thing. But
well, yeah, I agree with that. I think that the specific scenario that these athletes are protesting to, I think that scenario happens much less frequently than people would have you believe. I think like that, where it's like clear cut, like unarmed person, like they didn't do anything to like incite the officer. And like obviously, like I said, there are definitely scenarios and there are plenty of footage.
There's also news coverage as well, where the news will shrug something off if it's a certain thing that they don't want to have on the news.
Yeah, well. Sometimes you see that. But like, so I understand like what they are protesting, but as a result of the manner in which they are protesting, they are also disrespecting the anthem and disrespecting the flag. Like they are happening simultaneously. For me, it's like not a matter of intent. So like a lot of like the counter argument is always like, well, like that's not what they're not protesting the flag. They're protesting like these things that are happening. And it's like, yes, you are protesting that, but in doing so, you are also disrespecting the flag. And then you hear like, oh, well, then you shouldn't allow people to like be walking around and like buying food and whatever during the anthem. It's like, yeah, I agree with that as well. Like when you're like when we go to the Angel games and stuff like that, like we stop, we take our hats off, like even if we're like not out on the field, like everyone like watching the person sing.
Looks at us like weird, like wait, what? Oh, my bad.
Right, yeah, and I think even at like Angel Stadium, like they stop all the concessions and they stop like if you're outside the stadium still, like at the security gate, like they stop like people can't come through the metal detectors, like they stop everything for the national anthem, and like they should do that at all. I don't know if they do that at all stadiums. They should do that at all stadiums, and like the fans should they should have more respect for the anthem and the flag as well. So I don't know, it's frustrating all the way around that they give the NFL athletes and the NBA and like all professional sports, like they have more access to the media than almost anyone else. And so like they have this tremendous platform if they want to use it. Now I might not necessarily agree with their opinions and their beliefs, but if they want to, like they literally every day they could go out at like the press conference after every game. That every game in every sport has a press conference after, and like I guarantee you, especially now, like in the NFL, like people are going to be asked about it all the time, like the whole anthem scenario. Like now with like now there's going to be people waiting in the locker room through the game and such, and like they have a platform to talk about this, and I feel like that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Like no one like comes out and talks about like, at least most people. Like there's been a few. There's like been like Bennett when he was with the Seahawks, and like obviously Colin Kaepernick when he was still in the league and stuff like that. But like they have this opportunity and this avenue to like talk about and like try to support and defend their beliefs.
It's also another thing too is like that. It's not that what they're doing with their community and whatnot, but like what exactly are they doing? I feel like if I was in that position, I would go back to like help out my specific community first. Not that it's saying like, I feel like that would be a better decision, and I think the league should like, because the league has like they have programs for like rookies and whatnot. Not that they should incorporate something like this, but like, you know, maybe you should go back to your community and help out those specific kids there so that they would have just as good of a chance. Because like a lot of it too is like a lot of these guys are coming from those bad neighborhoods as well, and they've gone through that. But I think they would have a bigger impact on that, going back to the actual community, like saying, "Hey kid, this is where I came from. Like, if I can do this, you can do this. You just got to make better individual decisions or something like that, or come up with some kind of campaign for this. It's also just the way that it's fed. I think this is also kind of related to like what Kanye went through, and like not listening to certain things, and like over exaggerating things, or just like not saying it in the right way or statistically in the right way. Because like when you look at like we've had this discussion, like statistically, blacks have 50% of, or I think it's a little bit under 50% of the crime rate.
Mm-hmm. And only 13% of the population.
Yeah, they're only 13% of the population. Like, how can you argue that then? And not all 50%. Okay, maybe there's 5% of those guys that are actually being or saying like they're being targeted or something like that. But like, okay, then 45% then that's still almost half. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
So it's, and then like, we're not saying we're like right winged completely, like, but we do both lean on the right side. But like, there's things like today with like, what's it called? Trump tweeted out something stupid yesterday about how it's been great, and like, the troops would be so proud of what I've done for the country and whatnot. I'm like, what? Like, what?
I didn't see the tweet.
Yeah, it was like, it's just the way he said it, like saying like they should appreciate like what he's done, like, or they would have, like implying that they would, and like how it just doesn't sit well when you say something like that. Like, it's kind of like what, because like Obama would tweet, I think, because Ben was talking about this, how Obama would tweet stuff like with Obama on Memorial Day, it wouldn't be of a soldiers or something like that. It would just be him at a ceremony. So it's like stuff like that. So like kind of like oh, this is me hyping myself up in a way. So it's like there's things we disagree about what we do on the right and what goes on the left, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else we can really talk about after this. I mean, what we can bring back up is like what actually happens during the season. Probably when we bring.
Yeah, I mean, we're about to find out like what's gonna happen.
But let us know. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? If you're on the left, let us know what you think as well. Like, it's not that we're looking for an argument or like that. We're looking for a discussion, to have some discourse, to see the other side, and to walk away from that conversation knowing a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more informed.
Yeah.